Good morning, aloha, and we are delighted to welcome you here today to our Tokyo International Gift Show seminar. I'm Brenda Foster. I'm the chair of the Hawaii Pacific Export Council, and on behalf of our partners, DBED, the Small Business Administration, and SBDC, we are thrilled that you have been able to come to participate in these programs that we've been conducting throughout the year. I would like to remind everyone, including welcome to our people who are streaming this program online, that your comments are being filmed and that anybody who speaks, since we are filming all the videos for the seminars, that if you make a comment or anything, that everybody, one, will be able to hear it, but two, whether it's DBED or HPEC, and we put the videos of the seminars online, that your comments will be there also. So with that, it's my great pleasure to introduce to you Jamie Lum from DBED to talk a little bit about the programs and the steps that we've been going through this year. Jamie.
Aloha and good morning. Thank you all for coming this morning. This seminar this morning is part of our Hawaii State Trade Expansion Program, otherwise known as HiSTEP. It's a program that we receive federal funding from the Small Business Administration. It's actually part of a national initiative to increase U.S. exports called the State Trade Expansion Program, or the STEP program. So we are the administrators of the grant for the state of Hawaii, and we work with various partners like HPEC, like the Small Business Development Center, like the Foreign Trade Zone, and a number of other organizations to carry out the program. There are three components, and those of you that have been here before, you've heard the spiel. Many of you have participated in the past years, but we do have three components to our program. One is our Export Readiness Training Program, of which this seminar is a part of. Another component is our Hawaii Pavilions, of which the Tokyo International Gift Show is a part of, and then the last component is our Financial Assistance Program. So with the Export Readiness Training Program, we have partnered with HPEC to put on a series of seminars intended for companies who are either new to export or who have been exporting but are looking to increase their exports. We offer a number of different topics ranging from different export-related topics like logistics or ramping up your production for exporting, to a market-specific type of programs, like we did one on Canada, we've done one on Japan, and so forth. So all of this is intended for you as your company, as you're looking at what your export strategy will be, to gain more knowledge and input all of that into an export development plan. And then with that export development plan, you can move into other aspects of the program, such as the participating in one of the Hawaii Pavilions. These are shows that we have designated as shows that we think would be fitting for Hawaii companies, and we go in and we purchase space like the Tokyo Gift Show, and we go in under the brand of Hawaii. We recruit companies, and we have companies come, and all of you work individually to help find customers and distributors and buyers for your products, but all under the umbrella of Hawaii. So that's our second aspect, the Hawaii Pavilion. So the last aspect is our financial assistance program. For this year, we have given out all of the funding, but we do put funds aside for companies. It's given out on a competitive basis, and basically you present your export plan to us, and you can get some funds to help implement various aspects of your export plan. So that's kind of the HiSTEP program in a nutshell. We are coming to towards the end of this grant cycle, which ends in September, and we are awaiting word from the SBA to see if we get another grant for 2018. But all of this information is on our website, Invest.Hawaii.Gov, under the Exporting tab, so you can just go there if you need more information. Please, I invite you to visit that, and with that, I just thank you again for coming this morning. Aloha.
Perfect timing. Jamie, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate the support that DBED, SPDC, the Small Business Administration have given to this program. I see that we have another special guest who would like to make a few comments. The director of DBED, Luis Oliveira, is here. Luis, may I ask you to come up and address both the audience in the room and our online audience? to we have a very large online audience because we stream each of our seminars to increase the participation and the reach. So please, aloha.
I really have no prepared remarks other than the fact that having been a part of the Tokyo International Gift Show for the last 2 years, I gotta say that it is probably one of my most proudest and most enjoyable initiatives that the department actually goes through. I get to see and work with each and every one of you individually, to see you guys in action while we're all in Tokyo at the largest international gift show trade exposition that exists in Asia, and it is absolutely a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. And a lot of credit goes to our partners with SBA, and as well as with the business support and development branch under Dennis too as well, and Marlene and Lyle and everybody, and I see Tim over there. You know, these are the people that are really trying to move Hawaii's economy going forward, and with the things that you guys do. So again, no applause to me, the applause really is to you guys. So I just want to thank you guys for all being here, and if there's anything that I can do personally for each and every one of you, please don't ever hesitate to ask. So thank you very much, and appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you very much. Now with that, I'd like to introduce Dennis Ling, who is the Administrator for Business Development at DBED, who will also introduce and moderate our panel discussion that we'll have today. Dennis.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Dennis Ling. I'm with the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism. And it's heartening to see so many faces here for this, one of our most major initiatives at DBED, which is the Tokyo International Gift Show. As Jamie had mentioned, we have an application into the SBA for the continued support for the Hawaii State Trade Export Program. So we need all of your good vibrations transferred over to Washington, D.C., so that they can approve another round of grants for us so we can continue to do what we're doing, in addition to the financial assistance program, the training, but also the trade shows that we do. The Tokyo International Gift Show, as I had mentioned, is one of our major initiatives, and it's, as Louis had mentioned, the largest trade show, gift trade show in Asia. It attracts about 200,000 buyers, wholesalers, licensors, distributors, and also people who are interested in finding new products for export into the Asian market. So it's a very big show. It's held at the big site, which is a big pavilion over in Tokyo, and it covers, I can't even explain, it's something like 4 football fields, if you will, maybe even more than that. But there's, I would think there's something like 15,000 exhibitors, and we're just a part of it with a pavilion, though. We have a huge pavilion. And we do attract, if we have 200,000 people attending that show, even if we attract 10% of that, that's a good 20,000 people that we see through the show, which is quite a large amount of people. So if you can imagine that. But to give you a better idea as to what I'm talking about, we do have a slideshow for you, actually pictures of our pavilion. It will give you some idea as to what I'm talking about. So Blake, if you will, let's show some of the photos. Oh, that's not, okay. This is the opening ceremonies. As in Japan, they do things very ceremoniously. And in the middle there, prominently featured is our director, Louis, and Representative Ken Ito there. But they all have these nice big fat ribbons with the huge red carnation. And the media is there, so they do have media coverage and everything. This is our pavilion. And the way we've designed this is to go upwards so we can show the people who are walking around that we're there. And it has a Hawaii theme on it. We didn't want to do anything in the booths. If you see, the booths are left kind of empty for you to put in your own display. so that there's more room for your own products and posters. We went upwards to show that it is the Hawaii Pavilion. On the sides, you see the signs that say Hawaii. It says Made in Hawaii, so they know it is the authentic Hawaii product rather than the Hawaii-like products that are coming from other places. Blake? This is another vantage point of the pavilion. That was just one side. There's another section, the same pavilion on the other side. So it's like 2 rows of this. This is our farmers market. They're doing sampling and some demonstrations there. Here's our grocery store, our farmers market grocery store area where we have food for sale, products for sale. This is one of our vendors and her display. And that's Jimmy Chan, who will be part of our panel later on, who will be providing some insight into his experience. It's another grocery store picture. And that's Aaron Lau, who will also be joining us, if not in person, but remotely. He's with Lau Lau Woodworks, or Simply Woods. That's a chocolate company, Manoa Chocolate Company. They were quite popular because they had samples to pass out. And Sparky Doo's Wings Hawaii. And another vendor. Oh, this is the First Lady, the governor's wife, Dawn Amano Ige. Last year she came and she visited each booth, and she was blown away by the, our representation there, first of all, but blown away with the size of the show and the people who were going through our booths and being part of the whole event. So she checked out and spoke to each of the people who were there and checked their products. And she had 2 huge bags of samples to take home, which we had to lug back for her. And that's Anthony. That's from Maui, the Maui delegation. They had a booth for Made in Maui products. And that's Satomi Gu, who's here. She's with Hawaii Teas. Hawaii Tea Chest. And I guess we're back at the beginning with Lois again. So if anybody would like pictures of themselves, we can make them available to you, no charge, if you were featured in that. But that's what the Tokyo International Gift Show looks like. So I think we'll go into our panel discussion now. So if I could call up our panelists, Cheryl, Jimmy. Is Neil here?
He's running a little late. He's stuck on the production line.
Oh, okay.
He'll be running in smelling like chocolate, hopefully with free samples for everyone.
Okay. That's good. Well, thank you, Cheryl and Jimmy, for doing this. I could call up some others who were at the show. So, Tommy, would you like to join us?
Of course.
So, Tommy, huh? Oh, hi, Aaron.
And there are samples that
Hi.
because I ran in late, so go ahead and...
Yeah, come. I think the more people we can give to give their impression and, help discuss things. Sparky, would you like to join us too? Oh, Sparky is shy. Those of you who know Sparky, he really isn't. Oh, okay. Hi, Aaron.
Hello. Aloha.
Hi. And then that's Aaron Lau with Lau Lau Woodworks, Simply Woods. And to my right is Cheryl Sora with Tori Richard. Cheryl has been with us for all 5 years of the Tokyo International Gift Show. Yeah, I forgot to mention, this is our 5th time. So we will be going on our 5th show. We participated 4 times before this. Next to her is Jimmy Chan of Hawaii Chip Company. And to his right is Satomi Gu from Hawaii Teachers, or Teachers Hawaii.
Whatever.
But anyway, yeah, as I said, it's 5 years running. When we first started, we only had 38 exhibitors. Now we're pushing 70. So we've grown quite a bit. When we first started, Neil's not here, but if those of you who remember the first year, we had such a rinky-dink pavilion that we had to decide that, hey, if we're going to do this, we got to step up our game and do something really good. So we did that pavilion, and it showcases Hawaii. It adds a lot to what our products. Our products are very important. It's the brand of Hawaii, and it says a lot about Hawaii. So we wanted to make sure our pavilion does service to the products that you folks have. So we developed the pavilion to match this. This is Neil Arakaki from Menehune Mac, our go-to guy who's our on-the-ground person in Japan. And I was telling them, Neil, about how when we first started 4 years ago, or 5 years ago,
6 years ago.
6 years.
6 years ago. Oh, this is going to be our sixth time? Oh, sixth time. Hey, staff,
Yeah, this is
sixth
my
time.
fifth. I did the same.
Seven.
So,
This is our seventh time.
really?
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, it's been time flies when you're having fun. Anyway, we decided to upgrade our pavilion to match your product, and we want to make sure that your brand is well spoken of. Throughout the years, we've generated over 20 million in export sales, and our metrics of new companies to the market, or new to export companies, and also the increase in the dollar of export sales has also increased dramatically. So much thanks to all of you for participating. Those of you who are thinking about it next year, please let us know soon enough, so if we have to expand the pavilion, we can do so. Because once we decide on the size, the footprint of our pavilion, that's it. We can't grow any further. But with your input, we can determine how much larger we can go if we can. So with that, I'd like to toss it over to our panel. First of all, there's many reasons to participate in this trade show. As I mentioned to you, the number of buyers and wholesalers and agents and licensors that are present there. But I wanted to ask, for our panelists, Cheryl, why do you participate in our trade show?
Basically, so we can get our name out in Japan. There is brand recognition, but to actually be there at the show and to represent the brand and basically show people that, hey, we're not just in Hawaii or just in America, but we're also in Japan too, and we're here to expand basically in the Japan market. So, yeah.
Jimmy?
I want to get rich. But through participation, I learned that there's the potential, but you got to put in the time. And a lot of that was from conversations with Neil. And, you can be a flash in the pan and sell 8 containers and maybe you'll never hear from them again. Or you take your time and build your business over time. And that's the process I'm going through right now. And I am trying to grow my sales in Japan, because in Hawaii, we've got a population of maybe 1 million people. Tokyo alone, that's 10 times the amount of people, 12 times during the daytime. So there's a tremendous potential for sales. So I'm just trying to work my way towards that. So Tomi?
Same as Jimmy, we want to get rich. But,
Holding our breaths.
after we're like in our 22nd year in business and we wanted to expand, we realized that a big portion of our sales is a gift market. And our flavored teas are well received by the Japanese. And so we thought, let's try Japan. And what we've done is, as much as, we want to expand, but we wanted to make sure that when we get there, we wanted to do it where it's effective. So our quest was we had to look for a distributor. And the first show that we did with the DBED is our distributor was at the show. So it worked well for us. But like Jimmy says, it takes a lot of work. I mean, it's not like you just do one show and then you stop. It's sort of an ongoing thing, and we're learning. We've just learned that, well, not just, but that Hawaii products are known as summer products. So how do we get beyond that? We're still working on it. But it's been a very, very good show. Thank you. It's an excellent show.
Aaron, I'll toss it to you now.
Why do I keep doing it?
Yeah,
Because I'm Chinese like Jimmy.
You're speaking to about 50% of the room.
Oh, yeah? I don't even know how many people are there. But so like Jimmy and everybody says, I wouldn't expect for your first time to expect everything to go gangbusters. Otherwise, you're going to be really grouchy the whole show if you don't get your big account. But when you do business with the Japanese, it takes a long time. I mean, this is going to be my 5th year. And only now I'm starting to get more distribution. But I have set up accounts on my own. My product is a little different from food products. So I have set up accounts on my own through the show, but I don't have massive distribution, which I want to get rich like Jimmy. So,
Not there yet.
but it's going to take a lot of work. And the Japanese, it's just like Hawaii. I mean, you got to develop the relationship in order to do a lot of business with them. So the more that Hawaii has a presence in that gift show every year, the more people will find out about it and the more people come. So I don't think it's something that Hawaii should stop doing or DBED should stop doing, because it's a regular thing that the Japanese need to see. So that's why I keep doing it.
Thank you, Aaron. For your information, there's about 250 people here in the room.
Wow. Hey, that's much bigger than that conference room that you had before.
Yeah, we have standing room only.
To actually just build on Aaron's point a little bit about, even though it takes time and all that, but, part of the participation comes with being able to participate with other quality companies in Hawaii under the same, in a cohesive presentation. You saw how beautiful that booth was. That's not something that I would be able to afford on my own, that display. So getting the support from DBED and all these entities it's tremendous help for us as small businesses with limited budgets to be able to present ourselves, to stand up to the rest of the products that you're going to be up against in that show.
And I also want to add to what Aaron was saying. He said that this is I'm sorry, Aaron, was it your 5th time going to Japan?
I think Dennis was wrong. This is my 5th time.
Okay, and and he's saying that he's just starting to build business in Japan. They like to see that you're there and you're going to be there for the long run. If you do just one show and then that's it, you're probably not going to be able to build the business. Everybody here, we've been going for the last at least a few years, and that's how we're starting to build the business. They want to see that you're there and you're always going to be there, and that you're in it for the long run, and that they can count on you basically to be there, to help them out, and be able to sell them, and not just go to one show and then that's it and they never hear from you again. So if this is something you decide to do, think of it as a long-term kind of thing and not just a one-shot deal.
Neil,
Yeah, there's a lot of bureaucracy in Japan.
Yeah.
So it takes a while.
Neil is actually our sensei for the Japan market. He knows a lot about the Japan market through his own company, but also in dealing with others. So, Neil?
Okay, well, my company is Menahune Mac Chocolates. So we've been exporting to Japan close on 40 years now. We're one of the original guys way back in the day. And the market has changed incredibly from those days to now. My advantage has been I've been able to see it from day one and kind of stay in the market all these years. Learn how to do what we did because we made every possible mistake in the book. And you just don't do it a second time. Okay, and so we went through the school of hard knocks, and I don't want anybody to repeat the kind of disasters we ran into. And a lot of them weren't our fault. It's understanding the market. But I'm also the contractor for the Hawaii Pavilion, for the Tokyo Gift Show. A couple of things real quick. The DBED puts up the most incredible trade show pavilion ever. Okay, I mean, I've been doing shows with the state since the 80s. There's never been a Hawaii Pavilion like this before. There's never been a presentation like this before. Okay, it gains attention. You're going to get your share of buyers come and take a look at you just because you're in the Hawaii section. Okay. Second thing is just building on what they were saying. The Japan market is an investment. It's not it's not the Made in Hawaii show. Okay. I work with the new companies every year who come in, and one of the first things I've got to dispel is this is not like doing a trade show here. It's not like doing a trade show on the mainland. It's a different animal. But it's a very, very, very lucrative market. You just need the patience and the time to develop your presence and your strategy. Okay? If anybody, the rule of thumb, you do the trade show, I expect to see you for 3 years. Okay? You won't know if you have a market unless you do the show for 3 years. The buyers may love your product, but they won't approach you the first year because they're not sure if you're going to be there next year. And that's been a big bugaboo for a lot of first-time companies. Well, nobody really came to see me. I got a few cards, but nobody really followed up. It's because they like your product. They're just not sure if you're there for the long haul. The Japanese are very conservative buyers, and they're very particular buyers. If they see you the second year, they're going like, hey, he's still here. And they do remember you. Jimmy's real modest. Jimmy is actually my poster child. He was in the Japan circuit for trade shows for 3 years. First 2 years, I'm talking about nothing, just nothing, but he just kept hitting it. In the third year, his sales went from 0 to 60 in a matter of 3 months because his brand recognition was there, people understood the product, and it kind of took he's the Hawaiian chip company, but he's not selling taro chips in Japan. He's selling Kilauea barbecue fire sauce. And it's all over the place. It's gaining popularity in regular restaurants. It's not a Hawaiian product per se. Okay, there's a lot of that.
I'd like to add on that if I can. I go to a lot of trade shows in the U.S. mainland, and I do their wholesale trade shows, much like this one. And doing business in the U.S. is far different from doing business in Japan. But it's harder to do business in Japan, but once you get that 0 to 60 that Jimmy got and some other people got, once you become a trend, I mean, it's nonstop. And that's what we all hope for. So it just takes time, and the more you're in front of these people, the more they'll try and bring them omiyage too once you come and visit them every year, you know?
Yeah, well, we'll go into
bring Menehune Mac.
Or some of our other vendors' products. By the way, Jimmy Chan is the SBA Exporter of the Year for the Hawaii District. So, wanted to recognize that. He was nominated by us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Being an exhibitor at the trade show is one thing, but you're also there to be an observer. You'll learn a lot by just attending the show, even if you make no sale. However, as they said, you have to expose yourself to it. So what are some of the other things that, the panelists can recommend about participating in the trade show as an observer to sort of, you would learn about your competition for perhaps, packaging would be another one, but Cheryl, why don't
Well, I learned from everybody at the show. I learned from everybody at the show.
Oh, that's great.
And that's why it's really great doing this show, because we get to know everybody and everybody gives you helpful tips. It's a really great show.
Thank you, Aaron. Cheryl?
I think it's also good to walk around the show if you have a chance. I know a lot of times you're the only one at the booth and you can't run away, but if you ever have the chance, even walk around for half an hour, I say definitely get out, go look at everything that's out there, see what they're doing. Japan is all about packaging, see how they package everything, see how they sell things. Walking around the show it's great because you get all these ideas and you see what other people in Japan are doing as well. So you kind of get an idea of what kind of market's out there and what people are buying.
Yeah, definitely study what the other companies are presenting to you, and again, 200,000 people in a single show. That is a tremendous opportunity to get feedback on your own products and just see, hey, do I have a marketable product? And and sometimes you pivot. I mean, I first went to Japan with Neil. What was it? Oh, geez, almost 8 years ago. And first thing he did, because we're in the food industry, took us to the supermarkets in Japan. And this is where you go buy your daily groceries. And I'm like, oh my God, the fruit is perfect. How and the packaging and all this, and how are my chips gonna stand up to the packaging? Am I really gonna have a chance at competing? And that's where, after a few years of commitment and gauging reactions from shows, and I pivoted to the sauce because I saw that as a product that I could actually compete with, and that's part of my part of what I gained out of that. And also, it's not just what I'm exporting to Japan, it's about what I'm seeing in Japan that's making my business better here. So, sure, my export sales took 3 years to grow, and now we're really hitting a point where it looks like it's the real deal. But in the meantime, my business here in Hawaii has more than doubled by what I've applied from seeing in Japan. So
That's good. I mean, from our experience, it's the same. It's what you're saying. We sell tea. We sell flavored tea. I mean, that's our forte. We try to make tea that are flavors that we grew up with, right? So we in Hawaii, we know what Hayden mango tastes like, right? Not Mexican mango and so forth. So that's what we wanted to bring to our teas. Now, tea is Japan grows tea. So it makes it a little bit more, not difficult, but a little different for us. So when we're at the show, what we do, we walk the show, we see what the trends are, we see what the Japanese themselves are making, what kind of teas, what kind of flavored teas, and we compare with ours, and then we go out into the market, all the department stores. How does it work? How do these companies get their teas here? It's very obvious. It's packaging, but it's more than packaging. It's what makes our tea unique. So those are the things that we're studying, and we're still studying. We're not big like Jimmy yet in Japan. We're still trying to brand our product in Japan. I think we're pretty well branded here in Hawaii. So like Jimmy, he went into his sauces because he's not going to ship potato chips, right?
Yep.
I mean, you might as well make it there. For us, what can we do? And there's a term OEM, original equipment manufacturer. In America, it's called private label. So we want to still brand, but at the same time, how do we make money in Japan, or how do we get more known with other distributors? And that is through private labeling. So that's another avenue that we've discovered that's possible in Japan. But I really encourage you as an observer, look at all those opportunities, look at your product and see, what can I do differently? What are they doing? What do the Japanese like? And sometimes for me as a Japanese, I still don't know what they like. And they're a very trendy kind of a group. So my fear, well, it shouldn't really be a fear. So a flavor is taking off. How long is that flavor going to last in Japan? 5 years, 10 years? I don't know. But those are the things that we, as manufacturers, got to look at.
Neil?
Um,
Words of wisdom?
Yeah, going to Japan for trade shows, and especially the Tokyo Gift Show, it's an investment. You're paying for airfare. You're paying for, of course, get HiSTEP. It really helps. Okay, but I tend to see newer companies focus on the show and not focus on the education.
Yeah.
Okay, and you've already plopped down all this money to be there, and all you're doing is standing in a 3x3 booth 90% of the time, and you're just oblivious to what's going on in the market. Okay, it's like you've got a plan. I'm doing the show, but I also want to see this, and you've got to make this agenda to see where things are. Hopefully, if I become the contractor again, every year what I try to do is help every individual company with individual questions. Where can I find products, my category of products, to see what it looks like on the market? It may not be at the show, but why don't you go to this store, or why don't you go to that section of town and look around and see? It's a lot of it is logistics. I'll even help you with. I got a lot of guys with hotels going, I want to get a hotel that's really, really, really cool. They're an hour and a half away from the show site. And they're never going to see anything in town because they're too busy sitting on the train going back and forth after the show. Those are the kind of things you plan. This is an all-encompassing event. In other words, part of it's the trade show, part of it's your education. First year guys out there, I strongly recommend education. It's going to make your trip worthwhile. Okay? It's going to improve your presentation. It's going to improve your products for the second year you do the show. Okay? And as Jimmy said, a lot of times it's evaluating your product. Very, very rarely does your Hawaii product fit into the Japanese mode of product. Okay? American sizes are usually too big or something. In Japanese, like this little cute little packaging. And you've got to observe this. Not everybody can make the shift overnight, but you've got to be cognizant of the fact that your product might be great, but if the package is this big, no one's going to buy it. And it's that kind of thing. You see that by observing. Nobody can tell you how to sell your product. You guys are the experts on your own product. Okay? But getting to know why and how the Japanese buy things is how you progress in the market. Besides, don't get stuck in the bars like we do.
I'm just following Neil.
As the panelists mentioned, it is an investment. I mean, you are putting down quite a bit of money to get there, as well as your time. So you need to be prepared. You need to go there with the mindset that you are there to do business. So preparing for the trade show is very important. And Neil, you want to tell about some of the things that you definitely should be prepared to do? Some of the materials you need to have, some of the research you should have done, anything else that gets you in the mode to be successful at this trade show?
Okay, I mean, there's a full laundry list, and I won't go into all of it here. Okay, number one mistake that I've seen people actually do is prepare for the trade show and then find out that their passports are invalid. Japan has a new rule. You need 6 months validity in your passport, or they won't let you enter the country. And that's a new law. I've already gotten 5 guys in my group who had to renew for this year's show. They didn't know their passport. Okay. So just getting there. Be sure you can get there. Okay. Logistics. Where's your hotel? What you're going to do? I want to get you physically situated comfortably so you're not stressing out, just trying to get to and from the show. And am I going to get lost? Okay. To prepare for the show, a lot of guys ask me, do I need Japanese materials? Point of sales materials, printed materials. Not necessary, but very, very useful. Okay, and I'll tell you why. In Hawaii, we find people to translate our materials into Japanese. What we don't realize is that it's just like in English. There's people who can write text for advertising and people who can't. A literal translation of your product is very, very dry. Okay, and it's very uninteresting. Their buyers are like our buyers. They want something that's a little sexy. They want something that's interesting to read. And a lot of the times in Hawaii, we don't have that level, or we can't find the person who can actually do that type of translation. So there's a little thought to this. It's just like, here's my material, can you translate to Japanese for me? That is kind of a half step back. But it's better to have something in Japanese. Okay? Another question I get a lot of time is, should I have Japanese printed business cards? Yes, it helps, but the Japanese can read a lot of English. A lot more English than you would ever suspect. Okay, I wouldn't say go out and print Japanese cards just for the show. I mean, some people do. It's okay. It's not absolutely necessary. It's not absolutely necessary. Okay. Understand what products you're going to take up. First year, it's hard. Okay. A lot of people have multiple product lines. Not everything will work. Pre-qualifying your products, what you want to show the Japanese, and how to effectively to display them in your booth area takes planning. Okay. I have a lot of first-time companies, especially the smaller guys, who think it's the Made in Hawaii show. They just come with their boxes and they look at the show and they just make it up as they go along, and it looks like they made it up like they went along. Okay. And the Japanese appreciate a good presentation. The Japanese appreciate nice, clean presentations. We can go over those kind of details later on when you guys come to the shows pre-show. It's not necessary to speak Japanese, but it helps a lot. DBIT provides group translators. They bring in translators to work with the people who need translation help, but it's a shared translator system. In other words, if they're busy, you may not get a translator when you need one. It's possible. If it's possible, bring a Japanese-speaking person on your staff. Always is your first choice. You can hire your own translators, a bit expensive, but it does make it a lot easier to communicate with the buyers. And the third thing is prepare your presentation in terms of what's your story. Japanese buyers love a good story about your product. They want your product to be, they don't want you off the rack, here it is, it's pretty, please buy it. That doesn't sell your product. That doesn't sell your product. There has to be a reason why it's good. There has to be a reason why it's unique. And the visual is not enough. You have to be able to explain that. Okay? And it's hard. It's not, I'm saying this as kind of a matter of fact, but you develop your own style to do it. Because Cheryl's presentation is different from Jimmy's presentation, is different from everybody else. When Lala Woodworks does their koa pens, his presentation is very, very interesting. And I'll see why, because he's one of the few guys able to display a lot of product in a small area. Okay? But how he explains all the different pieces, I'll never know. I mean, it's just incredible. It's just incredible. I don't know how he remembers how all these pieces are like.
Aaron, how do you?
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the whole thing about the Japanese business cards and stuff like that. There's a lot of you guys that actually brand yourself as a Hawaiian story. Some jewelry people are transcend, just being made in Hawaii. But for me, because I just use koa and things like that, I use the Hawaii brand, so I don't necessarily have to have a Hawaii business card. That's not necessarily my target market. That's part of our story. All of us is that we're from Hawaii, so the Japanese appreciate that. The other thing too is what Neil was saying, how people sell things differently in Japan. I mean, some people are sellers, some people aren't. It's the same way that you word things in your literature. So a Google translation will definitely hurt you more than just the English literature. As far as planning, I've been doing trade shows for 15 years, so I've kind of got that down. But one thing I would suggest to everybody is order your Wi-Fi before you get there if you're arriving at 10 at night. So get your Wi-Fi sent to your hotel so you're not lost without it. Because a lot of the airports, the Wi-Fi, the mobile hotspots, I think they close down at 10, the sales parts. I think Narita is different, but Haneda, it's harder to get your Wi-Fi if you come in late.
Thanks, Aaron.
So-
Good point. Cheryl, how do you prepare to participate in the trade show?
We've been doing a lot of trade shows too for Tori Richard, all over Hawaii and the mainland as well. And a lot of those practices we use in Japan too. One thing I do is, because I'm not a first timer and I've been doing this for a few years, I do contact all of my customers or potential customers, I keep every single business card and I actually write on them what they came to see me for. Did they want men's products? Are they women's products? Are they a hotel? Are they a boutique? Are they looking for uniforms? Are they looking to buy wholesale from us? You know, I make notes on my business cards and I keep everything. And every year before the show, I email each and every one of them and let them know that I'm going to be in Japan again for TIGS, and tell them that I'm going to be there. I'd like to make an appointment with you, and I set appointments with them, so I'm not sitting at the show wondering if I'm going to have a customer coming. I've already built that customer base at that point. So the regular customers that do buy from me will always make an appointment, and then I also reach out to the new potential customers to let them know, hey, I'm back again. Please come by and see our new line. So that's been proven very useful for me to get customers.
Thank you. Jimmy?
To prepare for the show, I diet for about a week and then just pig out when I'm there. My goodness. For anybody who's never been to Japan and this is your first time, the food is just unbelievable. And I'm just kidding, but as far as no, really, it's unbelievable food and it's same quality of the products. But as far as preparation for our booth, you know, we take risks at my company. We try different things. You know, we kind of look at what's worked, what's resonated, what people still talk about, and you know, for this upcoming show, you know, one, we make sure that that we have you know, our distributor, our point of distribution lined up, that we have you know, products that we know we're going to push and that will be available to the customers, because you know, we've actually presented before and it's like, oh well, how do we get it? And I'm like, I don't know. Can you help me find a way? And generally that's not a good way to start sales. But you know, at this show, our focus is now on the branding, because we've got some volume of product going out, and we're doing, like Satomi said, private label basically. A lot of our volume is for restaurants. So people are learning about the sauce and they're using the sauce. Now they just need to know what sauce it is that they're using. And we're actually planning a new campaign where we have a story about how the sauce was made in Hawaii. And we have these characters developed from, we call them the Kilauea Fire Cousins. It's basically a bottle of sauce with eyeballs and a goofy wig. And we're going to try and engage the customers and test out on these 200,000 people whether or not this campaign is going to resonate, and do we invest more in that. So that's kind of our, you know, our goal for this show.
It's kind of interesting that you said like this cartoon character.
Yeah.
You know, we've been thinking about something like that too, so it's interesting that you would say it, you know, because of like cute stuff. But anyway, the way we prepare, for me, I have to contact my distributors, let them know I'm coming. Please bring your customers. We set up appointments, first of all, with our distributors. Because as far as customers, it's their customers, and they, you know, they'll invite them so that they can taste our product, and they like to meet the maker. So that's why my husband and I are there. So what we focus on is what are we going to have as tastings, and it's how do you create something new. And so that's our biggest thing. And luckily we have a distributor, so I can say, you know, we can ask them, hey, you know what, can you bring the cooler, because I don't want to lug it from Hawaii and stuff like that. So it's just contacting them. Also, because we have more than one distributor, and this is something that I learned, and I know Neil talked about it, and you know, the mentality of this, you know, as being American, they operate very differently. So I have to be really sensitive when I have a distributor who's next to me, but then I have another distributor who's walking by. I mean, I don't have 10, I only have like 3, but I have to be really sensitive to that. There's this thing about master distributorship that we don't really, at this point, we don't really, not believe in, but we don't adhere to that, so that's one thing that we just make sure that we be sensitive to that. But basically, it's just contacting our distributors. What do you need? Do you need any point of sale material so that we can have it printed, new banners, and what to present at the show?
Thank you, Satomi. So, the Made in Hawaii product is unique, but as the panelists mentioned, it's the provenance, the story behind the product that makes it even more unique. So you have to know your product and what makes it special that you can express to the customer. And if you don't have a true story, at least think of a story that you can attach to the product. I mean, you guys are all salespeople. I mean, be culturally sensitive, though. But, come up with something that you can use as a sales point. Now, most of you, or most of our exhibitors, have already participated in trade shows, or we expect you to have participated in trade shows either on the mainland or in Hawaii. If not, we would advise you not to go into the Japan market as yet until you develop your local or your domestic export market. So what we're talking about, we assume that you are already somewhat seasoned trade show people, and that there is some basic standards of etiquette at trade shows. I've been told when I work trade shows, don't go button hook people and start yelling across the aisles, hey, sample, things like that. I mean, you have to be discreet because other vendors are there that, they're going to complain and say, hey, he's stealing my customers, or you try to divert their attention. In Japan, it's even a little more unique because it's a different culture. So with that, I wanted to ask our panelists, what's the differences that you have found in the Japan trade show customer versus the Hawaii and the domestic trade show people, so that we're able to not offend them, but befriend them? Neil?
That's a good question. Basically, the show's in Tokyo, okay, and I'll qualify this. The Tokyo culture is different from the Osaka culture, it's different from the Fukuoka. They're very different. They're very different in their day-to-day mannerisms. And Tokyo's very, very what you call majime. They're very, very straight-laced. They're professionally polite. I like to say they're professionally polite. They can smile at you and be so engaging, and they're thinking like, oh, you're an idiot, but you would never know. Okay, so, but they're very polite people. The buyers in Japan who come to the show come in different types. There's different types. There's large chain store buyers, there's small chain store buyers, there's boutique buyers, and they're all a little bit different, and you can tell by the way they dress. Okay, the smaller shops will tend to be much more casual. The larger the shop, the more formal. Some guys are coming in their suits, they're working for a big suit company. But the presentation in and of itself is friendly. Japanese people like Hawaii culture, like Hawaii people. They drop their guards with us a lot quicker than they would trying to talk to Americans or other foreigners. You can get them down to the grass level just by being yourself. Okay, so it's not so much a matter of being Japanese as being yourself and being polite. Okay, with that being said, the buyers in Japan are very, in Tokyo especially, will always politely take an interest in your product, okay? But they'll never say yes. Yes is not a word in their vocabulary. If a company, I've learned, when a company comes to you, yes, I want to buy this right now, I take a step back and going like, why? You're not normal, okay? There's different kinds of buyers out there. There's some people you do not want to sell them to, even if they want your product. And you've got to be able to kind of qualify this a bit. We will help you with some of that. But you have to be yourself. Okay, we are not refined. We're culturally refined enough to fake people out. We Hawaiians, local people are just we live close to the skin, and people know when we're natural and they know when we're not natural. Even we know when we're not natural. The Japanese are much more sensitive to that. Okay, be yourself. They like us. Okay? They like us. Okay, So that's what I can say about that. But you do have to be respectful of their culture. Good to know the basics, how to present a business card. Not all Japanese like to shake hands. You know, you can do the small little waist bow kind of thing when you give your card and things like that. And it's just a nice way to break the ice before you take it down to that one-on-one conversation kind of level. But one thing I'll tell you about the Japanese buyers that you have to be prepared for is that they all have a Hawaii story, because almost all of them have been to Hawaii before. You will spend a lot of time talking about Waikiki Beach and Diamond Head a lot. and it's how interested you can stay when you're saying the same story for the 300th time is a test of your salesmanship. Okay, really. I've seen guys lose it on the third day of the show, and they've been on the floor all day long, and their shoulders are drooping, and they're looking all ragged, and it's 300th time I'm telling my story about Waikiki Beach, and you can just see it in their faces, and the buyer can see it in their faces. Like, I'm talking to you, but I'm not really interested. You gotta learn how to throw up the sales face and stay professional. Okay? It's a discipline thing. Okay? But it's discipline on our level. Okay, you just imagine working for the hotels in Waikiki and just dealing with tourists all day. It's kind of like that in reverse. Okay? Now, what Dennis was saying too about going on the Oz and grabbing people, yeah, that's a no-no. But in Japan, especially with the food guys, there is a way to scream across the entire floor to draw people to your group and not offend anybody. Okay? You're going to see that. You're going to see that because we have a section where our Hawaii Cafe, and our Hawaii Cafe boys are Japanese, and they'll do it. They'll be yelling, "Irashaimase!" and they'll be yelling all the way across, you know. But what that does is it draws people within earshot to our section. Okay? If they get too loud, you just kind of let me know, and I'll tell them, shut up a little bit. You know, that's my job. Okay? But that's all part of the culture. The Hawaii section, you will feel it when you get to the floor. The feeling of our area is different from the rest of the floor. From any other international section, from the domestic section, we have a nice vibe in our area. People just let their hair down in our area. It's really interesting to see. It's because it's us. Okay? So maintaining that type of energy is half the step to just getting that first contact and that introduction going. Yeah. Of course, having all your materials prepared once you got them in is where your individual salesmanship comes in. Your turn.
My turn. Wow, you basically went over everything. For me, I think the cultural difference is in Japan, a lot of the buyers, it's all about the relationship. It's not just selling. Here, you can just work with someone. If they like your product, they'll buy it. In Japan, it's the relationship. Really, the more they get to know you and your product, the more they're going to buy, the more they're going to want to buy. So I do try to maintain relationships, especially with our regular buyers. Try to get to know the new buyers as well. Sometimes even in the evenings, I'll go out to dinner with them, and that's how you get business going. Actually, is taking them out to dinner and talking about work while drinking. I'll bring omiyage to my customers. I'll sit there, and every time they come, I'll be like, "Thank you for being our customer. Thank you for always working with me." And as a gesture, I'll give them something as a thank you. And I think that's something very different from what I would do here, because you don't pass out omiyage. You don't do the whole going out with them, drinking with them to try to get business. So I think that's something different, definitely, that I do when I'm in Japan.
Thank you. Jimmy?
Pretty much everything they said is kind of relates to what my experience has been. Our very first show that we did, we got 50 leads, and I'm like, wow, this is fantastic, and I'm like, wow, Neil, check out this, and he's like, oh, cool, man, and then 6 months later, I'm like, Neil, nobody's buying anything. He's like, yeah, they're just being polite,
Yeah.
So, but the next year I went, and then my distributor called over, hey, Jimmy-san, do you remember Abe-san? He's with so-and-so restaurant chain. And, first thing, he remembered meeting me, and first thing he does is say, where's my poke from Alicia's Market? And I'm like, whoa, how do you know about Alicia's Market? That's crazy. So, and he just wanted to talk story. You know, then the third year they took me out to dinner next time I was in town. Really, really good dinner. And next thing you know, 3 months later, I got an order. You know, we sold 40 cases that summer. You know, and here we are today, and we just got in an order for over 500 gallons of sauce for just a small restaurant chain, and that's a small restaurant chain. So over time, you know, that relationship and that whole talking about Alicia's Market and playing beach volleyball, because that's what we do here every day, you know, you know, you know, it's what helped my company grow, and you know, and hopefully we've fabricated a relationship that will sustain and continue growing and building on that. So.
You know, like we're in food, and so what you'll notice when you go to Japan is there's really no rubbish cans wherever you go. So another note, you know, if you're going to serve food samples, please bring your own rubbish can and your own trash, you know, liners, because that's really important. So on that same note, when I do a sampling, you'll notice that when you have them sampled, they'll give you the cup back because they want you to throw it away. So if you're not familiar with that, you might get offended. Like I was like, hey, throw your own cup away. My rubbish can's right here. But that's not how they operate. So that's one thing. But other than that, you know, diddle everything that they said. The Japanese are polite. They'll only take a sample if they really want to try. Other than that, they won't, because I don't know if they feel indebted to do something with you or give you a card or something. And of course, you know, as business people, we're gonna ask them for a card. You know, we have samples. Some of them, they want to take samples. So, and that's just a handful. We had a really unusual incident recently, and a competitor of mine, well, they sell tea here and they sell tea in Japan. My distributor didn't know what kind of company they were. Obviously, you know, he's just not familiar with that, with the tea per se, but she came to ask me for samples, and I was just standing there, and then he gave it to her. So, you know, you have Japanese business people that are like that. They're coming to kind of check you out, and they'll have the gall to take your samples and so forth. So, you know, that I thought was pretty unique. It doesn't happen often, but just notice.
Thank you, Satomi. I think we lost Aaron, unless he's with us by audio.
Yeah, he lost. His computer was dying, apparently.
Oh,
He's
okay.
traveling in Colorado.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
All right.
can I take one step back?
Sure,
I know
yes.
a lot of you guys, we're talking with guys with distributors in Japan. I'm seeing kind of faces with the new companies who don't have distributors. The show is there to find an importer and a distributor at your primary, but it's not your only customer. You can make individual sales to individual stores and those kind of things. Okay? It's just a matter of how you want to structure your market. When you sign up for the show, if you have questions about those kind of things, you ask me. Okay? And I can give you the general layout of what the general patterns are. Okay? So I know some guys are going like, oh, but I don't have a distributor to help me with this. If I do the show, I'm on my own. Yeah, we were all on our own the first time we went out there. But we work together as a group. That's why you go with the Hawaii guys. The Hawaii group is really, really good. I mean, they could be your competitor here and you could throw rocks at each other, but you help each other when you're in Japan. It's really nice. Okay. It's my job to be sure everybody behaves. I'm the policeman. Yeah, I'm the policeman. That's my job. And I can be really mean too, so they know that. I can just be a real rat. You know, I'm putting you next to the rubbish cans with all the ugly people. I don't like you. You know?
One thing good about participating with the pavilion as the Hawaii Pavilion, as opposed to participating at a trade show with your own standalone booth. The thing is, besides we have Hawaiian music piped in, so it creates the ambiance. There's the visual, there's the audio, but it's also the aloha spirit that is amongst your fellow vendors. You know, we're very lucky. Instead of saying "irashaimase" or you know, come and see my sample or can I help you, all we have to say is aloha, and then they'll feel that, oh, it is the Hawaii Pavilion. So we have something going that others don't have. And if all we learn to say is to everyone who passes by, aloha, they'll feel like, wow, this is some special place. We're bringing part of the islands to Tokyo. So that's one of the things in, working the booth, is to use the word smile and say aloha as much as you can to people passing by. And they'll appreciate it, and they'll feel warm towards you. So you've prepared for the trade show. You've got your price list, your product that you want to market there. You develop your storyline, your sales pitch and everything. You're operating your booth professionally. You're friendly with your neighbor, hopefully. So then you've got leads. People are saying, oh, I'm interested in your product. What do you do to take it the step further? Panelists, what do you do to take the step further with the lead?
I will follow up with them as soon as I come back from Japan. I'll shoot out an email, knowing that a lot of them are being just polite and saying that they're interested. I'll actually send out emails to all of them. And the ones that do reply, I know, are the ones that are seriously interested, and they're the ones that I will pursue after the show. And if they don't send an email back, I'll just keep their card and just make a note of that and see if they come back to the show the following year.
Good,
Yeah.
thank you.
For me, I have a distributor that I trust, an importer. He's basically the master distributor, and I'll follow up with the distributor and let him kind of take it from there. And if there's something I'm not too clear on, I'll ask Neil.
For us, we make a copy of all the cards that have stopped off at our booth. And then I give all the cards to my distributor, and I review the cards, and I get together with my Japan marketing person, and then I call my distributor and I say, hey, have you followed up on this person, this person, this person? I expect some kind of report maybe about a week or 2 weeks later, and if not, then I email back to them. So that's how I follow up.
Neil?
Okay. Well, real quick, half a step back. You've got your price list. You kind of know what your products are going to sell. That's your wholesale price in Hawaii, okay? But you have to understand the cost of freight and how it affects the buyer. I've seen so many sales fall apart because this is my price in Honolulu. And when you add on the freight, they're going like, oh my God, that's really expensive. So you have to study how you get your logistics, how you get your product there. If it's just from airport to airport, that's good enough. From Hawaii, you have two options to commercially ship freight. One is by full 20-foot or 40-foot ocean container. They don't do consolidations out of Hawaii, or by air. Okay. If you're going FedEx, USPS, DHX, or whatever, I don't consider that a commercial sale. I consider that a point-to-point, kind of almost like a mail order sale, because the cost of the delivery is horrendous. 6 boxes of my chocolate, if I put it in an international flat rate box, it's $65. That's way more than the product in the package, and that will turn off a buyer. Understand that when you're presenting the product, that the buyer is looking at this actual approximate cost. Okay, so you don't give him sticker shock. There's a lot of times you'll get to the wall, and you'll do a lot of work, and then they find out what the freight is, and then they'll just abandon you. They'll just back off on you. So you've got to be aware of that. The second thing you've got to be sure is when you make this when you're following up on the sale and you're taking care of the sale, the business card. The business card is your golden ticket. That's your e-ticket. Okay, if you exchange a business card, that buyer is in play. Whether he was polite or not, you've got his card. That gives you the right to contact him and bug the hell out of the guy for an answer. Okay, because you've exchanged cards. It's been a formal introduction. You do not do that. If people come and talk to you but they don't give you a card, you do not follow up on those. Okay, that's technically a transgression. You're being very impolite. You're being pushy. Okay, they give you a card. You exchange cards. Follow up. And then you start to sort. Never throw away a Japanese business card. Keep them in a pile of guys who didn't respond, but keep them, and just kind of thumb through them and get familiar, because you'd be surprised when these guys will boomerang back on you 1, 2, 3, 4 years later. Okay, and they'll remember you, and you've got to have some point of reference not to look like an idiot.
Yeah.
And it happens to me all the time. I mean, I know guys that I met like 15 years ago just came out, hi, and we're like, hi, and we're like, who the hell are you? But I actually have 4 suitcases full of business cards. I mean, 4 suitcases for all the years in Japan. I've got 4 suitcases full of business cards, and I actually, believe it or not, because my wife is really good at this, she's actually had them categorized. You know, so I could actually pull up, oh yeah, this guy was doing this, and this guy was doing it, to a certain extent. But it's you've got to get that kind of mentality going. I don't expect you to be as totally idiotic about it as I am, but you've got to get that mindset. Okay, you got to get that mindset. What the price is going to be to the customer, when you get the sales order, how you're going to handle the sales order, what your lead times are going to be for delivery, and more, very, very importantly, and I was telling you before, is you got to qualify the buyer. Qualify the buyer. Qualify the buyer. We've had people in past shows find good clients who bought stuff, and we find out they're basically operating out of a studio apartment out in the suburbs of Nagoya someplace, and he's just interneting this stuff out, and he's trying to get a commercial sale off of you, and they're doing it illegally.
Can I jump in on
Yeah.
that as well? Okay. I have a similar story. Please, for those of you going to Japan for the first time, please, please, please don't think that everyone is, they're good people because they're from Japan. You got really slimy ones out there too, I can tell you. And a lot of people don't think that because they think, oh, Japanese, you know, they're so prim and proper and polite and there's no bad people out there. Well, there are. I'm not saying that everybody is, but just keep in mind that there are people like that. So please be careful. I had the president of a company call me on my cell one day, and I had his business card, so I had met him at the show. I had met him maybe 2 or 3 times. He's come by, and he asked me for a favor. His favor was, he says, I have fabric, and I have labels from another company, and I'd like for you to manufacture it with that labeling on there. Well, it was our competitor, local competitor, and I said, no, I'm sorry, we can't do that. But for some reason, they thought we would. And so, you know, and they're trying to be sneaky because they didn't want to go through our competitor, or something had happened and they couldn't go through that competitor anymore, and they had their labels. So they had asked us to produce their shirts or dresses or whatever it was for them, since they knew that we're also another apparel company. So, you know, I had to just tell them, no, I'm sorry, we can't do that. We only produce our own merchandise. And then I had to go call that local competitor, tell them, hey, by the way, I just got a strange call from Japan. This customer called asking if we could do this. And so, you know, just know that there are slimy people out there too. And you really need to be careful. And don't think that because it's Japan, there's no one like that out there.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know, and it's understanding who the buyer is, but not just because they might, you know, be have ill intentions, but sometimes it's just understanding where they actually are in the company. You know, because hey, a senior vice president of this and that sounds pretty important, but these companies are so gigantic. You know, it's probably like an unpaid intern, and we had an instance where we met a buyer at a show, and we had a discussion about, hey, you know, this sauce would be great. It's great on local mocos. Hey, they see Hawaii local moco as Hawaii food, so we thought, all right, well, let's get this sauce into your stores. And she introduced us to her supervisors and bosses, and you know, so the discussion came to getting them the prototypes and getting the bottles into the stores. So instead of just making the prototypes, I got a little overzealous and printed up 5,000, you know, labels and this and that, and you know, because we were going to be sending tens of thousands anyways. And come, you know, 6 months later, we find out that that buyer just wasn't that high up enough to make those key decisions. So when it came down to making that decision on, hey, are we going to carry this local moco sauce? It got axed. So if anybody needs local moco sauce labels, you know, I get some real cheap, on the cheap. I'll get them to you. But that was just my experience, and not understanding who that buyer was and where they were in the decision-making chain.
Yeah, that's important to know who the decision makers are, and I think that's even here in Hawaii and in America. I mean, that's really important to know. Kind of off this subject to help you folks, you know about the hotspot and phone. I have a website that you can go to. It's called Rent a Phone, and you can order a hotspot and a phone, and it'll be waiting for you at your hotel. Good rates.
I go through Global Advanced Communications. That's also another company as well for mobile Wi-Fi. So you can check out both and see what you think. But they do deliveries to the hotel or pick up at the airport. So, yeah.
Good. All good suggestions. I guess before we open it up to question and answers, I wanted to reiterate some of the must-dos that you need to prepare yourselves for. Like Neil mentioned, must-do is to have your business cards, preferably, well, should be in Japanese also, English and Japanese. Another thing is, must-do is your price list with the freight included. One other important must-do, which sort of relates to what Cheryl mentioned, it's you have a brand name. You must register it in Japan. Otherwise, someone coming to the show will see your company's name and they'll say, wow, what a neat name, what a neat product. They'll register the name and make a similar product. You also would like to get licensees for your product. You can't license your product unless you register your product, your name. So registering your name is very important before you even go into the market. I have heard some scare story of one large prominent apparel manufacturer, and someone did rip off their brand name, and they were forced to decide to work with them as an agent. So please register your name. Any other must-dos? Neil, Cheryl, Jimmy, Satomi, that
Well,
you...
get into that product registration. Yes, very, very important. There are people who make a living of registering other people's. It's a thing. It's more prevalent now in Asia. It's not just Japan. And in Japan, Asian interpretation of trademark registration is different from Western countries. First man to register owns it. Doesn't matter if you're the most famous brand in the US. If you didn't register your brand and somebody else does, you don't own it. There's a very, very, very famous retail chain here in Waikiki who can't use their brand name in Japan because some guy who lives out in the sticks, I think he's a farmer, who registered the name. Okay, it costs about $2,000, more or less. Now, it's also the Japanese trademark registration is very tricky. You may register by category, and within the category, there's subcategories. And everyone has a different cost. It's like, I have the name Menuhuni Mac. I originally could not register the name Menuhuni Mac because Mac knives were in Japan, the cutting knives out of Europe. So I had to make Menuhuni Mac one word. Okay? It's not Menuhuni and Mac, it's Menuhuni, and we got around it. But I only registered for the food category. Well, somebody registered the name Menuhuni for clothing, somebody registered Menuhuni for accessory items. And I can't produce little trinkets or whatever with the Menuhuni because I don't own the brand name. We've been lucky enough to meet these guys, and we kind of all agree that we're not going to step on each other's toes. But it's very, very something you got to be cognizant of. Okay, it is an expensive registration process. I believe it's for 3 years. You've got to renew it every 3 years. A lot of you guys are going, oh, should I register before I go? This is a call you make. It's expensive. Now, I feel that the very first year you go out to the show, you should have it. But if you don't, you're still okay to a certain point because your brand is just being exposed. If you feel like you've got something going, you can register. The registration process is a lot easier now than it used to be. You can actually, if you find somebody in Japan who has know-how, they can do it online. Before you have to hire an attorney and do all that kind of stuff. You don't have to do that anymore. And we, as part of the TIGS program, if you come to those issues, we can help you with that. We can help you with that. I won't pay for you, but we can help you with that. It's not as complicated as you think, but it's something you really, really got to consider. That's what I mean. You've got to commit to the market. You got to commit. That's part of the commitment. I'm registering my brand. I'm registering my brand. Yeah, that's part of the commitment. Japan is not like Dennis was saying, it's not like the first show you ever want to do is a Japan show. You've got to have a little bit of experience to get out there, so you understand what's going on. Really important.
Panelists, anything else to add that really you should do?
Get to know, this was brought up earlier. Get to know the other vendors.
Oh, yeah.
Use that opportunity. You're gonna trade war stories. You're gonna trade, and you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn. Again, learn from prior mistakes, and maybe even get some inspiring ideas on how to better position your products. And attend the dinner. There's a dinner. I don't know if there's space left, but there after the first day of the show, there's a wonderful all you can eat, all you can drink dinner that we all go to, and make sure you know the words to Hawaii Aloha, or you're gonna when Dennis starts up, then otherwise you're gonna be like me humming along.
Yes, I don't pass out lyrics. So you need to no song sheets.
No,
This is an all-you-can-drink event, so, I mean, one year, everyone had to sing their high school alma maters.
Yes. Yeah.
The Punoho guy started it wearing
Yeah.
it.
I think it died out with like
Yep.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
This is the Hawaii, the Tokyo International Gift Show for the Hawaii guys. It's just not a trade show. Okay, it's actually an event that's multifaceted. I don't know of anybody who's ever come to the show, walked away disappointed, even if they didn't make any sales. They didn't walk away from the show disappointed. The networking alone with the other guys was worth its weight, because you'll never meet these guys here. You're never going to get all these people in one place from all these diverse categories talking story. Like Cheryl's example, when you find some rat company who's trying to horn in on somebody else's business, your network will keep an eye out for you. We found what we call pirate importers, illegally importing Hawaii products at the show, showing the products. They forged all the import documents. We know they did, but they're there at the show. Well, other members saw the product. Hey, we saw that product over here, and they're not supposed to be here. So now we got to lead. I would never have seen it myself. These guys happen to see it. They report it to us. We take action. Okay, so building a network is really important. And we got a really good bunch of guys. My evil plan for anybody attending Tokyo Gift Show is I got to be sure you have fun. Okay? And the reason why is this. You're going all the way to Japan, and if you're not having fun, you're going to be very discouraged to put a lot of energy back into the market. If you enjoyed yourself, even if the sales were kind of flat, you're motivated to go back to Japan again, and you're going to find reasons to do it. You're going to be motivated. It's a really evil plan. It basically a lot of food and drink, a lot of drink, and rolling you back. Oh, one real quick thing too. No high fashion statements if you do the show. Don't want to see girls in high heels. Don't want to see the you're going to kill yourselves. Okay, dress appropriately. This is not a fashion show. I've seen girls not be able to stand up the third day because they were fashioning out. No. It's not like that.
We recommend everybody wear aloha wear.
Yeah.
Because it's the Hawaii booth. So, yeah, I need to reiterate. It's important to get to know your fellow exhibitors, because a lot of times you do get business too from your fellow exhibitors. I've known bag manufacturers who got business from the apparel manufacturers, and so it's likewise. There's a lot of doing business amongst and with each other, as well as support and the networking that they can put you in contact with someone too. That I think there's this camaraderie among the Hawaii folk to help each other. So that's another thing about this trade show, that everyone realizes we are a small community and a community of like-minded people. So everyone pretty much tries to help each other out. So we'd like to open the floor up to any questions that you might have, some of the areas that we may not have covered. Anything, you're free to ask us, and hopefully we'll have the right answers for you. So anyone want to start off with the first question?
Oh, come on, you guys. No shame. I know you got questions because we didn't cover a lot of stuff. Okay? And no question is too small, because, trust me, there's stuff that you should know that we didn't cover, and I know that you want to ask. Come on. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for all of you that have distributors, do you utilize your Japanese distributors in Japan at the show to be your interpreters or support staff?
Yes.
Yeah, it's case by
Yep.
case. Some guys do, some guys don't. It just depends on the situation. Like Cheryl basically is one man army. She speaks perfect Japanese, and I think her agents will probably just get in her way because she's like totally turned on when she's at the show. Jimmy uses his agent exclusively. I'm one of the few companies who have multiple importers, but in totally different categories. And as a rule, kind of because I'm the contractor, I'm actually not allowed to get a booth. It's a conflict of interest. But I do have my distributors who put up some product, but we don't make a big splash of these things. It's a call you make depending on how supportive you think your distributor or importer will be. Some importers won't support you. They won't. And then you got to question, you're not such a good importer, are you? But that's how you tell people, and sometimes the quality of your importer, they may be great going out to the street and selling product one-on-one. They may be terrible at trade shows. They may not have the personality for a trade show. So the manufacturer makes the call. You own the booth. You can ask who you to work with or not to work with. But your distributor's biggest help is that they've got product in Japan, or they can import product for you in Japan. You don't have to throw it in your suitcase and lug it over and try and get it in a taxi or a train to the show site. They've got cars, they've got transportation. It really makes it a lot easier. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Marlene.
Go over the import process for companies like food manufacturers.
Okay.
How long it takes, what they need to do, and if they are not approved, and they still go to the show, what they can and cannot.
Not just that, but beauty too, because
Yeah.
Could
Okay.
you also repeat the questions? Because I think for the video and online people, they may not hear the
Okay.
question. Thank you.
So the question was how to prepare for the export, basically, from an import customs kind of perspective. Okay, there's definite categories in Japan. There's when you have food and cosmetic items, you will be basically under the Japan Ministry of Health Regulations and Japan Customs. If you have dry goods, you'll be under Japan Customs. But sometimes it'll reach over. The Japanese are considered the masters in the world of what's called the non-tariff barrier. Okay? So we have duties and tariffs that we all deal with, and these are international agreements. But the Japanese will take it a further step. Well, they'll find health and safety issues with certain types of additives or ingredients or consumer concerns that's codified in their laws that are not covered by duty and tariffs. I'll give you an example. Food items, when you take them into Japan, you must present your entire food ingredient statement broken up by percentages, which is giving away your recipe. Okay? But if you don't do it, you don't get into the country. You have to outline exactly how you made the product, step by step by step by step, as a required document. Once that's done, you've got to send Japan Customs samples, and they will lab test it in Japan to verify your product. The Japanese have a thing called the control list. It's a list of agricultural and food chemicals that are not allowed in the country. Things that we take for granted here are illegal in Japan. Sodium benzoate, part of margarine, illegal in Japan, to a certain degree. So you can put small amounts of it. There's a lot of chemicals, food colorings, food additives that we use here that are FDA approved. They're totally illegal in Japan. And these are the kind of things you have to work through. I actually help a lot of companies with this. Cosmetics, it's even a little more strict for cosmetics. Anything with a skin application or topical application, you're considered a pharmaceutical. You're considered a drug. Okay? So the importer in Japan has to have a pharmaceutical import license to handle your product. A lot of the Hawaii soap guys have a lot of customers who want their product, but they can't find a company with a pharmaceutical import license who wants to import Hawaiian soap. They have a really hard time with that. I'm actually trying to address that in a kind of a side thing, but you've got to go through the same process of showing them what your chemical, what the ingredients are. For fashion, I found out recently, because I don't deal with fashion, but they want to know what the material is for your labels, sometimes you want to ask what kind of inks you're using for paper goods, dry goods. So there's all these different pre-qualifications to be sure your product can be imported. Okay? The dry goods are not as strict. For the food items, for the cosmetic items, if you do the Tokyo Gift Show, I will get to you very, very early on. Once I know what category you're in, and I will work with you. 99% of the time, I can get your product cleared for Japan import. You have to pay the costs. But there's sometimes when your recipes or your ingredients are just plain illegal. And then you got to make the call if you want to alter your recipes to be compliant. But I try to catch you really early on. So there's hope to do that. I don't want anybody wasting their time or wasting their money. The worst thing to do in Japan is present the product, the buyer wants it, and the buyer finds out you're illegal. I mean, aside from being shamed, okay, that puts a bad view on the entire Hawaii pavilion because, like, oh, they're just throwing stuff at us. You know, we don't want to be known as the guys who are throwing out swap meet stuff. You know, we got qualified products going in. If you come to the Hawaii pavilion, all the products are importable. That's a goal. Sometimes there's some things that are kind of on the edge, and that's okay, but they can't be flagrantly illegal to import. Okay, yeah. So there's a process to this. When you find an importer, your importer in Japan will have to go through all these steps to get your products legally cleared. Okay? And they should know. So when they talk to you, if they're talking seriously about importing, one of the questions you ask them is, what's your import experience? What other imported lines are you working with? That's a good question to ask any potential importer for your products. What are you doing now? Who are you? So there's all of that. So this is, like I said, this is not for the first-time crafter who just wants to go to Japan to do a trade show. You've got to have a little bit of experience. You've got to know your product. And I work one-on-one with every company that signs up. In that sense, I can pretty much tell you're going to make it, and you've got issues that we got to look at, and it's my job to sort it out.
You know, could you also share on some practical advice for bringing in the samples for the show? Like, I mean, this 8 cases of sauce is omiyage through customs, you know. My friends really like the sauce.
The trade show is a little different. The Tokyo Gift Show is not an over-the-counter sales show. It's a B2B show. You're going to buyers. You're concerned about materials for display. You're considering about samples if you're giving them out. But you're not bringing in truckloads of product to try and sell it over the counter. That's not what this show is about. Okay? So 90% of our guys, if not more, will actually just bring their products in with their suitcases. Okay? It's only for display purposes. The food guys you have to be warned that you have to have your product cleared by a licensed Japan a food importer to get what's called an import sticker on every product you bring in, or you can't even sample the product at the show. You're not allowed to serve it to the public. We have a mechanism that gets you through that. It's a little tougher for the cosmetic, soap, and other people. Okay, so you've hand carrying it in is fine. It's because you know how your displays are going to be set up. If you've got high value items like jewelry, I've got an art company coming in. They got thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of value of stuff coming in. If you try to bring it in your suitcase going to Japan, they may not catch you. But if the U.S. Customs catches you bringing it back, they're going to nail you. Okay? Because there's no proof that you didn't have it made in China and you're trying to smuggle it back into the country. You've got to go to U.S. Customs. You've got to call them. You've got to register those expensive products to know that you can get them in and out. There's international documentation that will be accepted in Japan side as well, that you're taking it for a trade show for business purposes and you're bringing it back out intact. Call U.S. Customs to get that. I forget what it's called. It started with a C, Carif, or I forget what it's called. Yeah, I do chocolates. I don't have to worry about that. I can just toss my stuff. Yeah, and there's all of that. The other thing you have to be very, very, we can turn off all the microphones if you want to do this, but this is what I've told a lot of people. Sometimes your products are very bulky and you're bringing in several boxes and they're for the trade show. Japan Customs does not take kindly to the fact that you're bringing something in for commercial purposes. Even if it's only for displays, they might try to hit you with a duty. I tell them, hey, it's omiyage for my friends. You know, and I'll take it. You just got to be reasonable about it. I got one guy who just kind of lost it. He had like 9 big boxes of stuff for the show, and he's saying, that's omiyage for my friends, and they look at him going like, I don't think so. So he was at the airport for 3.5 hours. You know, they just tore him up. You know. So yeah, be practical. When you do the gift show again, before you come down, I check with everyone. I be sure what they're bringing up, and I actually do check with every company and every person one-on-one many times during the process. Just so, especially for the new companies. So you just kind of I want you to be very comfortable going in. Okay. You don't need the hassle of worrying. You just don't need the hassle of worry.
Thank you, Neil. I'll give you guys some chance to think of some questions, but in, oh, okay, yes, sir.
So is there a list ahead of time before the trade show? And if there were, for example, 3 tea companies, would that be a problem? Or would that?
This,
That's why I'm asking that question.
yeah, the show is come one, come all. If I've got 9 companies doing the same product, I've got 9 fashion companies. I think we've got about 8 or 9 fashion companies in this year's show. The idea is that we're going to try and not, we're not going to try to group them together where they're just kind of just getting into each other's way. We try to space them out to a point of practicality. I do send out a list. We just sent out a list a little while ago of the list of companies who are participating. And I'm going to be sending out another list on where your booth placements are going to be, and you can see where everyone is situated within the pavilion. But that's as far as we'll go. I had to stop taking a lot of these requests for companies to be here, there, and everywhere within the pavilion, because when you're dealing with 60, 70, 80 companies, and I've got to move one, I've got to move 50 other companies to accommodate the guy. And that just got really impractical. But we try to be very, very cognizant. When you guys register for the show, we ask you what type of product you have, and when we try to place you in there, we try to be sure that you're well spaced enough apart from each other, not to be crossing over into each other. And there's some companies who are actually competitive, want to be next to each other. I get requests for, can I be next to this guy? Can I be next to that guy? And for them, it's synergistic. They actually find out they draw everybody in one area. One of my big Japan importers says that the most effective way to sell products in Japan is not by individual company, it's by category. You put all the clothes in one section, you put all the soaps in one section, and he says buyers like that because they can just go down the line and see everything in one small section. And that's a theory I'm observing right now. I want to see if it's really true or not, but the guy has a lot of experience, so I kind of understand where he's coming from. But I don't think we do it for the Hawaii Pavilion. I think we'd always respect the breakup unless you made a request to be next to each other.
Yeah, and we don't limit the types of businesses by their category. It is, as Neil said, it's open to all. We are a state agency, and we cannot discriminate except on the basis of it has to be a made in Hawaii product, 50% made in Hawaii. And as Neil had mentioned, we do have several companies, coffee companies, for instance, there's several of them. Chocolate companies, there's several of them. Apparel companies, there's several of them. Water companies, they may be competitors, but to a lot of times they feel that by in fact co-locating, there's a bigger presence that they might be able to. Once they talk business, though, it's it's very discreet. So, any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, how many booths last year in the pavilion? And out of the booths, how many are repeats?
Oh, okay. The pavilion got enlarged again this year. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. How many booths? How many booths were there at last year's event? The pavilion got expanded this year. I'm trying to recall off the top of my head. It's not so much the number of booths because we actually partitioned the booths into full booths and half booths. And there's also companies, brokers who will bring in multiple companies to stay in one booth. Last year, I believe we had 72 companies, or I forget how many. We had 70 some odd companies last year. We've got just as many this year. But
yeah, we do have half booths, but sometimes the half booths turn into quarter booths because we have 2 companies maybe working out of a half booth. We try not to scrunch them in too much. Half booth is the minimum that we would like to have a company represented in.
Now, yeah. With that being said, so a booth is 3 meters by 3 meters, so about 9 feet by 9 feet. That's a full booth. A half booth is slightly smaller than that because you got to have a little walkway in between. So you call it about 1.5 meters, supposedly, but it's more like 1 meter. We've got groups coming in, like the Maui Food Technology Center, who will take a bulk area for multiple Maui companies. We're small and just want to do the show, and they're sharing resources. So they'll take 2 full booths and throw 7 companies into it, kind of thing. So the configurations are very flexible. Yeah.
Someone online asks if you could repeat the Wi-Fi hotspot recommendations.
Oh,
Rent a phone.
well,
Rent a
Actually,
phone.
what we'll do is we'll do it in our newsletter.
the bulletins, yeah.
The bulletins that we send to all vendors, and we'll give that information in writing. That way, they'll have it readily available.
The only one thing I would tell that person is, do not rent the Wi-Fi provided by the show site. It's terrible. And if you
And
lose
it's
signal,
expensive.
you won't get your money back. And it's written in Japanese, so unless you can read Japanese, you wouldn't know what paper you just signed.
And it's really expensive.
And it's really expensive.
Yeah, it's expensive. Okay, I'll give you some additional time to think of questions, but in order to add more value to our presence at the Tokyo International Gift Show, we've did a project called Buy Hawaii, Give Aloha. And I wanted to call Lyle Fujikawa of our staff to talk about this Buy Hawaii, Give Aloha added benefit. Oh, yes, Brenda?
Check, there may be online questions too because of the online audience.
Yeah, Blake is
Yeah,
checking.
I just asked.
He did ask the question. So this is Lyle Fujikawa. He'll go over the Buy Hawaii, Give Aloha. Yeah.
So these are samples of labels and tags that we're producing. Hi, so Dennis came up with this idea that if we had a branding platform, we could really capture the emotional brand value of the Hawaii products. And this is something that we're doing for our trade promotion, our export promotion at trade shows. The market is really for buyers abroad, like at trade shows, but there's of course also local. So we're going to start with the Japan market first. You can go to the next slide. The problem is, while Hawaii does have huge emotional brand value, of course, we get copied a lot, right? So we are losing opportunities to sell lower quality products, will dilute the brand, and it takes away revenue from the actual people who are making products. So as a solution, what we, the DBED, Dennis decided was we create this idea, Buy Hawaii, Give Aloha. And in order to help companies to associate themselves, we are creating these stickers that you can actually put on products. We're going to have signs. We're creating a website that's going to be a clearinghouse for your online presence. And we're going to do this. I'm actually leaving on Friday for the Hankyu show. I think a few of you folks are going. It's a B2C show. The idea is to get people to, while they know that Hawaii has great brand value, they may not know what is actually being made in Hawaii, what's not. It's a little tricky because there are some products that are being sold that are not made in Hawaii. And so our idea is to have those stickers affixed to the actual products. People will look for that and they'll say, okay, well, they'll trust that is actually authentic and made. Not only is the brand value higher, but it gives you a chance to have a little bit higher pricing, where you can get more income as well as a profit margin. So objective is to really create more metrics. I mean, how many companies are actually doing it qualitatively? What is the increased awareness of? Is this really authentically made in Hawaii? And this is really help you with your sales. The very first metric is really just how many people are going to be participating. What we have on the website that we'll be launching. And besides the page views, we want to put your website there. If you have online e-commerce, if we actually send you a link and you actually have a sale, if you can record that, we'd love to hear your report on that. As I mentioned, target audiences, if it was here locally, would be visitors, so people actually buying abroad. We are also going to be testing this first in Japan. As I mentioned, Hankyu is the first market. We have another show called the Hawaii Expo at the Hikarie site in Tokyo, where we'll be doing, that's also a B2C. So the Tokyo International Gift Show, I think all the companies that are participating will be able to use this, and we'll have the banners and labeling there. Trade should also be understanding that, yes, if I actually source authentically made Hawaii products, this will be good for me as well. You know, it's going to be definitely in demand. You have a higher pricing point, as I mentioned, and I think in general, just consumers are looking for that. You know, what is really made authentically in Hawaii. Next. Just really in general, talking about the brand values, aloha. Actually, go to the next slide. So, you know, why should we buy Hawaii? So shopping locally will support Hawaii small businesses, helps our economy. But the idea of gift giving, I think you all know in Japan is very important. That the omiyage, the fall, the winter, as well as the summertime, gift giving is a very ingrained custom. And so this idea of if I buy something from Hawaii, I'm thinking of you, this is a really important gift. You can also buy it for yourself, right? You know, you buy yourself gifts and you think, whatever, I'm freezing in wintertime, I'm drinking my tea-chest tea and I'm warming up as I listen to Hawaiian music, I'm brought back to my Hawaii experience. You can go to the next. So ideas at Hankyu will have a very small booth, have these large banners. There's a talk show where the MC is actually really talking about the program, getting consumers to seek out. At the booth, we'll have small signs, and if possible, we'll have the stickers and the labels on the products. It actually goes to, if you can go to the next slide, a website. We have this in English and in Japanese that describes the program, what is the meaning, the next slide. And it actually goes down to registered companies. And this is where you would have people, if you're seeking out the company or just looking in general what is made in Hawaii, that would be something that we can keep on there. So the idea is that we're going to give you a more extended presence than just the 1 week at Hankyu or the few days at Tokyo International Gift Show. Hopefully this will give you a longer presence online. Okay, and we'll have a process to sign up online if you are interested later on. But in general, these are going to be done mostly through our trade shows, and we'll see how the demand goes if we expand it further. So, thank you.
So, yeah, basically it's stickers and hang tags that we want you to affix to. First of all, our director had a good idea. Affix to yourself. Buy Hawaii, give aloha, sort of like a badge for our pavilion members, but also to your products, because there's a lot of Hawaii-like products or products made in the Philippines or Thailand or whatever that are made to look like Hawaii products. With this Buy Hawaii, Give Aloha tag, it'll be sort of authenticating the product is made in Hawaii. So hopefully we'll distinguish our real products from the imposter type products. And as Lau mentioned, we'll develop a website so that once they go to the web address there, they'll also be able to find your company listed and they can go to your website also. So it's sort of a seal of approval for one thing. We'll make it available in hang tags for garments, stickers for products, and also for follow-up on the website. So that's what we'll introduce at the Tokyo International Gift Show. Yes, sir. And there's no charge for this. We'll make the stickers and the hang tags available.
So, like the Department of Ag, I believe, has.
Yeah, they do have a seal of approval. It's
in competition to that?
no, it's not. We're using this only for particular trade shows and retail stores. It's not for broader. Yeah, it's not for Hawaii at this point. Yes,
Can I ask a
Satomi?
question?
Yes.
Yes, same note with what that gentleman just said, Department of Ag has their own seal of quality.
Right.
What's to prevent someone sleazy guy in Japan to make some kind of a seal like that? And the only reason why I say that is I've had an incident where, you've got all kinds of seals. We use USDA organic and all that kind of seal. There's this one store that we had at, you have a lot of Japanese vendors here in Hawaii, small. What this Japanese vendor did, and they sell to the similar stores that our distributor sells to, they made their own seal of quality that said basically Hawaii, and if it didn't have the seal, it wasn't. And they put their stuff all in one section. So that would be my only concern. I think it's a great idea. I know what you guys are trying to do, but how would we?
Yeah, well, the policing, for instance, that seal of quality that the Department of Ag has, they have the legislative right by statute. They're supposed to maintain that quality, that it is a made in Hawaii product, and sort of police it. I don't think they have the resources to do so, but they have the resources to authenticate. But other than that, yeah, it's, as you say, these sleazy people will do whatever they can to sort of make their official whatever, to add some sort of official imprimatur on it. Ours is just within the show to sort of show that it's distinguished as a made in Hawaii product. And hopefully then, if they won't go to the other booth that has, coconut bras that they're selling, they're trying to, that they got elsewhere. We got the real coconut bras,
The real coconuts.
So, Tony, can you mention, can you give us information on that?
On
company that you mentioned?
with the seal of quality. There was another vendor, I guess I don't know that person per se, but he or she decided to make their own seal and put it on her products and products that she distributes. And then it was placed in one section. So a Japanese tourist coming in would look at that and go, oh, this must be the real thing.
Yeah, so let's look at it and then each seal you use and check it out.
And I know a lot of, I've seen in the past, others, they use the Royal Coat of Arms. It's like the official seal of the state of Hawaii, and they use that as official things. And there's a lot of different ways that people do this, and unfortunately, there are people like that, and they do that. Are there any other questions? We got 5 more minutes before we let you go. Yes, ma'am.
So I have a question. Every year you want to bring something exciting and new to your booths. So would there be any objections, or is there anything wrong with trying to do maybe a giveaway to get business cards? Is that something that's allowable, or is that something that's kind of frowned upon?
Okay. The question is whether you can do giveaways to start, giveaways and things from your booths at the show to generate more activity. Japan is really weird. I think for the trade shows it's not as strictly enforced, but in Japan, free giveaways are actually taxable. And you're taxable to 100% of the gift. That's why in Japan you never see win a free trip to Hawaii, because the tax on it is actually the full cost of the trip to Hawaii. Okay. And the reason why they do that is because larger companies have a huge advantage over smaller companies if they start buying customers. So that's one thing. But having an interesting activity or something, you can ask Jimmy. Jimmy's the master of that. Jimmy actually does, Jimmy's booth is going to be actually a promotional booth as opposed to a sales booth. He wants to promote the branding. So they're going to have like a game, and they're going to be giving away, small prizes, and that's totally all right. And the reason why you get away with it is because it's a skill. There's a skill involved. It isn't a lucky number drawing or a lottery or anything like that. So I think you've got to be a little creative, but there's no reason why you can't do it. I think my biggest concern would be is that if it's a really, really good game and it's a really, really good prize, you're going to have too many people standing in front of your booth, blocking out everybody else under the sun, and just crowding into, because the Japanese like free stuff just as much as everybody else. Yeah.
Now would it be wrong to tie that into maybe What kind of flavor
Yeah,
would you
it-
like to
it-
see, and then we'll give you something?
I learned this the hard way. In Japan, when you take surveys, you're almost obligated to give a gift. If you're doing a public survey, you're obligated to compensate the person for the time to take. I mean, it's not like going on the street and just asking people questions and thank you very much. That's people do it, but it's very tacky. It's very tacky. So it's like you actually have to invite them, get their permission. Most guys will use a professional survey taker to pose the questions correctly. And I say that with a grain of salt because I know a lot of times they pose the questions to get positive results on their survey, and they give them a compensation. And the compensations are usually much more than what you would expect. Yeah.
But that's a good idea. Maybe we can come up with some sort of promotion. Maybe like a gift bag of Aloha, have all of the vendors tossed in one sample, make a big giveaway bag, and maybe have people put in their business cards. And I don't know how we decide on the winner, though, at the end of the show to pull the name. Think that might be possible, Neil?
Let me go check it out. I gotta probably clear it with the show organizers. Basically, it's gonna be a little bit public, but we can always go check it out. Because it's a closed venue and a buyers-only venue, it's not an open to the public event. There's a lot more leeway than trying to do it out on the street. So I will check on that. I will check on
Good idea. Anything else? Well, oh yes, sir.
Just a quick question. So at this show, do you also have other buyers from other countries?
Yes.
And have you had success moving forward and having contacts with these other distributors, if you will?
Yeah, so the question is, are there other foreign buyers who come to the show? The answer is yes. Have people made sales? Yes. Some have been very, very interesting. Slow to develop sales for sure. It's not like I met the guy and I'm making a sale on site, but you develop the relationships that led to sales. I can honestly tell you over the years, several $100,000 worth of Hawaii product has gone to a third country from contacts made at these shows. And you'd be surprised. Sometimes you meet European buyers. Sometimes you'll meet American buyers. I know a Hawaii company who started selling products in Mexico because he met a buyer at the Tokyo Gift Show. It was kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, like we've had guys like even from Korea and whatnot, but the problem is I don't have logistics set up. I don't have a distributor in Korea. I don't have, so there are logistical issues and also my resources as a company in Hawaii. I'm also limited on resources as to how many markets I can concentrate on at a time. So, it is something that we talk to our distributor in Japan about, because one of the things is taking advantage of like a foreign trade zone like this. If we're sending him product there already, and he can hold it, and then from there he can ship to Korea, Hong Kong, whatever, a lot cheaper than us shipping direct. So down the line, I do see us executing on some of those leads generated internationally, but just because of the size of my company, I'm not able to do that at this time. So.
Louis, you want to give us some closing remarks? Just end this on a high note. Oh, I'll interpret for you.
For me, what I gotta say is that it can be very intimidating. It is a very big event. I mean, I don't think we touched upon. I mean, the Hawaii Pavilion is in between the pavilion of Korea, Malaysia, China. There is no United States pavilion, by the way. We are in competition with countries, and that's how much brand recognition Hawaii as a state has. And so this is an opportunity for each and every one of you to ride along with that brand, and I wish everybody here luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for your attention. And if you have any other questions, you can email us, anybody at DBID, Neil, and more than happy to help you out. And if you're thinking about it, I hope this has been very helpful to you. If you will be joining us in September, we look forward to seeing you. So take care, drive safely. Oh.